Hello, beautiful one. I'm not quite done yet with this subject of I am somebody who, and I will add another layer to it to really let it sink down deep why it is so important to take this little step about I am somebody who, or whatever way you're saying it. And again, as always, this may not relate to you. You may have a solid felt sense of I am with all the beauty, the love, the fulfillment that comes with that actually is that. And you may not need any steps. So remember, whatever I share here on my channel is always, always, always my own experience because that's the only place any of us can ever speak from with a sense of authority, right? Because it's like, okay, this is my experience. I can share that. If I would share somebody else's experience that resonates with me, I would say exactly that. So back to that, it's that self image that we have lived as if it is our true self. It's an identity, right? It's when we go back and leave behind any past selves, future selves, all of that, the only thing that is always left, because that's the only thing that is real and true, is the felt sense and experience of I am. When that, shall we say, when the projector, excuse me, when the projector shines of I am, shines cleanly through our expression, it comes with all the fulfillment, all the love, everything that we already are. It can start expressing itself out here because as within, so without. When we put all these filters on, not consciously, not on purpose. There's no judgment. There's like, oh, okay, we have been moving through this phase in our evolution where we have been identifying with a lot of limitations. So that's what we have been putting in front of the projector. And that is why I am shines through this filter of limitations. And we've done it for a very long time, so we just don't question it. The felt sense of it, that's basically the self image. So it's an image we have of who we truly are. And that comes with all the feelings that goes with that. That's why it's like a whole package. It's a separate identity. I often talk a separate sense of self, a separate identity, um, with a gap between who we are as our true identity. I am, that's our true identity. And because there's so many layers, we have been separated. It feels like we're separated from it. That's this past sense or past self identity. So when we start moving into a new future, we start creating a new future. It's basically we start creating a new experience of I am. We take off all the old filters. And then if we need to, we can put some on here that are more resonant with who we are. And that we will often feel as a longing or a deep desire, right? That's why going down deep and really feeling what we wish for deeply, not as a a superficial wish. When it comes from deep within, you can be sure that it's coming from your true identity that we are beginning to feel now because this layer, this veil is thinning. That's why we have more access to this inside. So if you start saying or feeling or repeating or affirming, I am peace, and you still are covered with everything unlike peace, this identity that says, I am peace, is experienced through the filter. And that's why it doesn't reach the core of the experience, which is what we are looking for, the felt sense of it. So if you speak, I am peace, from behind all these layers of limitation, it's just staying up here. And that's why it does not help us to just repeat it without having it connected to a real felt sense of our true identity. So we can say in a way that self-image, that limited self-image, that is the one that says, I'm peace. And when I talked about insulting our own intelligence the other day, it is because your intelligence, my intelligence, knows that I'm not peace. I'm a mess. I can't figure out how to find peace. I'm anxious. I'm scared. I'm this and that. All this old identity. That's why saying just like, when people start doing affirmations and trying to change their lives, not that that's a bad thing because we have to start somewhere, right? And the only place we can start from is where we are at. And for most of us, that is here. Our I am covered in a bunch of limitations and fear and anxiety and whatever. So saying it from here is not going to land. And that is probably why most of us don't experience the impact of it or the realization of it in our lives. Why? Because we are still identified with this identity that believes it is limitation. It's full of limit. It is a limitation itself, and it is anything other than peace. So why I'm saying that today, and that came as a clarity yesterday, it's really nice when you start really listening. That's what I've done ever since I started my YouTube. There's so much clarity coming through that is a true blessing for me too. Hopefully it is for you too. But I could see, because I have been talking about I am somebody who, that statement actually puts you into that self-image or that identity that you are identified with. So you own it and say, okay, I am somebody who believes peace is not possible for me. Now you are, I would say, right at 12 o'clock. You're right at the point of your experience. And we have to be there. If you say, I'm peace, you're not at all aligned with yourself. You are aligned with all the layers of distortion and limitations and fear and whatnot. Those parts are not going to buy into you saying, I'm peace. You can walk around for hours saying, I'm peace, but it's all here because it cannot reach the felt sense of it. It cannot become a new self-image because it cannot reach through all those limitations, which is the absolute opposite of peace. if peace is what we're after. And I do believe peace is probably what we're all after, because that is who we are. That's why the longing we feel, we're just feeling the longing to be ourselves, to be who we are. So if you feel like this drive where you always have to do something and get somewhere and be something other than you are, this is just a drive turned away from itself, because the drive comes from this longing to just be at peace, to just be yourself. And that's why doing to become that or to get there, it's not going to work. That drive can only come from somebody who is identified by being separate from the divine, by being separate from peace, by being separate from who you long to be or what experience you long to have. So we have to come to a place where our identity goes, oh, it is that click I talked about yesterday, or that deep breath. And as I'm thinking of that, I've talked a lot about Joel Goldsmith, because that is where I had my big bang awakening many years ago that lasted for a few months. He always talked about that. It's coming back and realizing who we are and beginning to stabilize in that, and not just let these hypnotic suggestions from the past pull us back into the past. So we have to know who and what we are as I am. And that can only be a felt sense experience that gives you that feeling of the click, of the deep breath that Joel often talked about. Because when you feel that, it just happens. It's not something you have to try, or you don't consciously take a deep breath. No, when you drop down there, and with Joel, it was about healing, about knowing that the truth of who you are, which is what I'm talking about. And as soon as you feel that, there is click. Oh, there's a deep breath. There's something that relaxes. And in Joel's case, because he was a very, very powerful healer, so deeply embodied in I am, that energy would go out and balance or harmonize what was not harmonized and aligned with the divine. So that click, I remember when he talked about the click, and I started recognizing, oh, that's the click. So in that, I know I'm dropping in. I know I'm aligned. So we need to get to that place. I will also link a video, a meditation I did a while ago about how to start experiencing I am. You can just find it by clicking this link above here. When you know I am, when you are beginning to rest in that, when you have stepped away from that false past identity that has a self-image of all the negativity, you leave it behind. You start realizing that me saying I am peace, it's not going to do anything. It's not going to do anything to this. The only thing that's going to do anything to this is you and I leaving it behind, unclutching our grip little by little so you can slip out of it. And now, instead of battling this, now you can start dropping in and feel it. Now, from that place, it's going to be very, very different to say, I am peace. And maybe I should also just link again the video I did a few days ago, the steps we need to take to get out of the old and start bridging the gap into a new experience of who we are. We can call it the future self. It will always be the present self, but this now it's experienced without the past self. So we are going to stop dragging the past into the present moment so we can start experience I am. We can't experience I am as long as we keep dragging the past. And yesterday's I talked about it's like this tube that just feeds I am. And we have to kind of cut it. I saw myself in that morning run. I just had to fully cut it off, not giving it any attention, and then I can really feel I am. Now, this is not new to me at all. But what is new to me right now is I am somebody who is now able to step out of it at a deeper level with more clarity. And that in itself gives me a deep breath and a click of relief. And that's what I want for you guys too, if this is new for you, right? So now we're here. So now, it's still, we need to get back to the identity. And that's why when I say, I am somebody who is beginning to feel peace. You are identified with being somebody, and that's why we need that identity for a while until we don't need it anymore. This is part of crossing the bridge, crossing the gap. So now I'm like, I am somebody who is now beginning to feel genuine peace. What is that like for you? Can you begin to sense that? We just got a deep breath just on its own. It's like, oh yeah, thank God. What a relief. And it is a relief. Leaving this behind and coming into the present moment is a big relief. Big relief. And what happens when we feel relieved? We take a deep breath. So in that way, they're kind of nicely tied together. When you feel a genuine, organic, deep breath when you do this work, that's a clear sign that you're landed in something more real than the past. So now we can be that. And then you can, if peace is really what you want, you might be other things. Then you can start really using that phrase, I am somebody who's experiencing peace in a whole new way. And then you walk around your day, you remind yourself often, you put little sticky notes around the house, not to just read it with your mind. Forget that. We need to embody it. So we're creating a whole new self-image, not because we are creating it, because we are it. We create it just by leaving the old self-image behind, which is not what we want anymore, I assume. And then you start allowing yourself to experience yourself as a new identity, as a whole new identity. It's like an I am, right? Self-image starts with I am. I am. And then we put somebody who, then it's a real, like, oh, this is the image, right? So you can feel it. Not that I want you to become a new image. It's just to cross and start feeling your I am presence with a whole new expression and experience. So for today, what I really wanted to bring through is why I experience it as very powerful and effective to use the term, I am somebody who, it's kind of a way to avoid the past of you, the past identity, to co-opt that experience. And you can't help it. If you say I'm peace from over here, it's like, forget it. Nobody, none of these layers are going to believe it or let it in. It's impossible. So we need to take those steps out. It's like, oh, I'm somebody. And then you can use all the steps I put in that video I just posted here above. Like, I'm somebody who feels safe to leave my past behind. I'm somebody who feels safe to live in the lack of knowing, in the unfamiliar territory. You can even say, I'm getting a little excited about having a whole new experience of myself. Right? I'm somebody who is beginning to feel excited about experiencing myself with more freedom. And I feel I'm somebody who feels safe doing so. You don't have to say I'm somebody who all the time. I want you to use that as a transition from the old into something better, into something more expansive, while still being connected to your identity without all the layers. So now we can start walking into a whole new timeline, a whole new frequency where the old is going to drop away more and more because we are not engaging it anymore. We are engaging and it takes a lot of practice. It really does. You have to catch yourself when you suddenly find yourself in the old again. And then you notice that all the things you're doing here, they don't work because it can't get through the layers. So it really takes a deep willingness to see where you are identified, when you are back in your old self image, and then know how to make the transition where you could choose. You can literally choose and say, no, I don't want that anymore. I really am done with that. Now I want this experience. And then need to know what experience you're looking for. Maybe it's just really experiencing I am. What is that? Right? That can be an open prayer. I am somebody who is now beginning to experience my true divine essence of I am. And then you walk that in the woods or whatever you do, and you start embodying it, but always, always, always connected with that I am feeling. And when we say I am somebody who, it always comes back to our self-image. So we are changing the self-image probably until we don't need to do it again or do it anymore. That's usually how it works. But to have these transition statements and exercises and practices be very, very helpful. I think that's what I wanted to say today. All right, give me a like, subscribe, comment below. I still would love to hear how this is all landing for you. I'd love to stay in touch with you. And if you need support in that, please reach out because I am somebody who feels very comfortable and confident in helping others make that transition. How's that? So now take this to heart and make it your daily practice. You may need to put up little ringtones or post it just to remember it, right? Because we go right into the unconscious where we forget everything. So that's why it's really okay to put a lot of sticky notes around the house, let your phone beep every so often, put it on your steering wheel in your car. So you keep training your mind to change, to move from the old into the present. And then from there, you create a new future experience. You don't create a new future experience. You create a new future experience, but it's always a present experience because that's all there is. Let me know how it goes, okay?